Luda trusted in Jehovah and was not overreached by fear or discouragement. What does it mean to be overreached? Listen carefully as Brother Harold Corcoran explains in this morning worship program.
The expression used in our day's text, the word used is overreached. And what comes to mind when we hear someone that has been overreached? Well, to overreach means to get better of or get the better of, especially by deceit or trickery, to outwit, to overtake, to overpower. And so we have to be very careful at all times because our enemy, the devil, is out to trick us, deceive us, overtake us on any occasion possible.
Overreached. Well, welcome back. This is part 3 for the April 2024 broadcast. We broke it into 3 parts because there's kind of 3 parts here. This particular part, they don't want you to be overreached. Overreached. So let's think about this, overreached. Are you and I being overreached by jw.org? Let's think about it that way. I think so. And we're going to look at a few scriptures on what he's talking about. He's talking about Satan, crafty acts. I agree with what he's saying here, but reverse. You see, narcissists like to look out at the world. Whatever they're doing wrong, they'll look out at the world and they'll say, well, you're doing that, you're doing that, you're doing all these things wrong. That's what a narcissist does. What do you think Jesus thought of narcissists? We're going to look at a few scriptures. Jesus talked to lots of narcissists in his day, and we'll look at how he talked to them. But this guy's a narcissist. He's a Pharisee. He's using the Bible to instruct you and I and tell you and I that we're being overreached by Satan if we go outside of their boundaries, their confinement. If we do not put our children on the altar and let them die when with regards to the blood transfusions. We put our children on the altar, we let them die. If we don't do that in worship of these false prophets, these idols, if we don't do that, they will remove the wicked man from among them. You become a wicked man. If you do not want to die regarding their blood doctrine, their evil blood doctrine, if you don't want to die, which there's no scriptural support, and you don't want to die for it, remove the wicked man from among you. We covered that on the first or the last broadcast. The scriptures. They have problems internally, this organization. And so they use fear. They remove the wicked man. Just it's not wicked. Is it wicked to say, I want to live? That's not a wicked thing. Jesus said life over death when it came to breaking the law on the Sabbath day. So many times he was saving lives, healing people. He was criticized for that, for breaking laws. But he broke laws to save lives. You see, JW.org is opposite to Jesus. They have many laws, like the Pharisees of Jesus' day, many laws and many rules, and if you break them, we're going to kick you out. Remove the wicked man. This is how JW.org works. They will remove a child under 18 they will kick them out, disfellowship them, because they didn't do something right. That's how this organization works. Let's look at a few scriptures here. We're going to look at what the Bible has to say. And overreached, let's talk about that. Overreached, get better of someone by cunning. Reach too far. reach too far, get the better of someone by cunning or trickery. Isn't that what's happening all over the world? JWR gets into court and they twist it. They say, shun, leave our religious freedoms alone, and we don't shun. You can come to the meetings and you can talk to disfellowship people. They have a life. We have to keep the wicked man out of our congregation. This is how they pump it out in court. They twist it. So they get the better of someone in court by their cunning, by their twisting of what they really do. And then they tell the courts, you can't look at our elders book. That's our religious freedom. So they hide how they do things. They don't let the courts look at it, and they hide behind human rights or religious freedom. So what we're attacking them back on is human rights. Human rights. There's over 1 million shunned people that have left that organization. Over 1 million, and they're not necessarily disfellowshipped. They just left. They're shunned. You get you get shunned from leaving this religion. You can't leave. It's like Hotel California. Once you get in, you can never leave. That's it. I didn't realize it. There's some truth to that song. And when you look at California, well, isn't that where Rutherford, their first leader that made all of these rules that they follow to this very day, except they've allowed beards back in. But he had squashed beards for 103 years. That's how strong his programming was in this religious organization. And the organization comes back and they say, well, we don't always get it right. We do make mistakes. But yet they say we're God's chosen ones. Jehovah works through us. So that's, in essence, they're saying Jehovah doesn't get it right. They're blaming it on God. And you see, they're too narcissist. They're not humble people. And they're not willing to say we made some mistakes. Simply, it's not Jehovah's fault. It's no one's fault. It's our fault as humans. We misread the Bible. They never say that, folks. They never say that. We're going to start out with this scripture, 2 Corinthians 11:13-15. This is what he was saying in the broadcast here, really talking about Satan and his crafty acts. So let's take a look at the scripture. It's right above my head. For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen. False apostles. Now, how many false dates have this organization put out? Many. They're false apostles. And here's what they're doing. They're disguising themselves as apostles of Christ when it's convenient. Mostly they're Jehovians. It's Jehovahism. That's what this is. There's actually a term for it. It's called Yahwehism. And they follow Jehovah best they can. And when it's convenient, they throw Christ in. At the memorial time, they throw Christ in. But you'll notice in these talks, it's all Jehovah. Jehovah says this, Jehovah says that. And when they do that, it's really the watchtower is saying this or that. Because there's no scriptures. They're just saying Jehovah says this, Jehovah says that. They speak for God. You see, when you do that, you are usurping the boss's position. You imagine that you're a boss of a company and you go out of town for a couple of days and you leave your managers there and they say, well, the boss says this and the boss says this and the boss says this. And when in fact the boss said none of it. The boss says it's all in the Bible here. Here's my Bible. It's not in the Bible, but they come out and say, well, the boss says this and the boss says this. Not quoting the Bible. You see, that's usurpation of the boss's position. They've usurped Jesus' position. Jesus is the boss right now on earth. It's not Jehovah. Jehovah's given it all over to Jesus. Why even bring Jehovah into the picture? This is about Jesus right now. That's what we're talking about. The Israelites were in the wilderness. That was about Jehovah. Jesus came along and he says, okay, I fulfilled all of that. Forget about it. Everything's fulfilled in love. And can you tell me that it's loving to stop your child from having a blood transfusion to live? Or it's loving to allow your father and your daughter, son, to communicate? You get in between that. JW.org. That's not loving. You see, it doesn't fall under that command. So they have to go to the Old Testament and try to figure out how to pitch this to you guys. What they're doing is using crafty acts. They're disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. That's what they're doing. And it says, no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Now, folks, Satan does not want you and I to know the truth about Jesus, the truth about Jesus' birth. That was the biggest birthday party in the world. The angels all came out. The Magi came with those huge gifts. And then Jesus and his parents could leave. The angel appeared to, Joseph, and said, get out of town. And so he got out of town. He had some gold, went to Egypt, bought a house. They lived there for four or so years, many years. I don't know how many years. Watchtower said 4. So it's no surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. You see, that's what the Watchtower's doing. Hey, we're from Jehovah, but they're missing it. Jesus is in charge here. But they're saying they're from Jehovah and that it's okay to put your child on the altar and let him die for their doctrine. They're saying that's okay. It's not. And that's how Satan disguises himself. So it's no surprise his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. And that's what's happening. It says here, their end will correspond to their deeds. That's what this says. You see, David's Blaine says, well, the governments are going to fall. And they're looking at King Herod, and he died in 4 months, and they're hoping that in Norway, the courthouse is going to explode or something. That it's all going to go away. Jehovah's going to deal with this, and those guys are going to get it. You see, that's how they're looking at it. That's not the right way to look at it. We read the scriptures, Romans 13, all the way through there says these governments are there to serve our good. Now, if we're going against them when they're just trying to do good, child welfare, stop abuse of children, the Bible supports that. Jesus supports that under love. That one command of love supports all of it. All those other commands are fulfilled in Jesus. It's quite clear. You can't make money off that one. That's the problem. John 8:44. This is talking about the JW.org, the governing body. You are from your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desire. Now, he was a murderer from the beginning. Now, I'm going back to the blood thing. How many lives have been murdered because of that evil blood doctrine that they got involved in and they can't let go of it now? Their liability is too big. If they let go of that, I don't know what would happen. You've seen the repercussions from just allowing beards and pants, which is ridiculous. When we think of a church, we think of someone in rags or doesn't even have clothes on and he needs somewhere to go. He goes to the church. And that's where someone's there. And I think of a church. I'm hungry and I have no place to go. I can go to that church. And guess what? They have a soup kitchen. And they have hostels. And they get me in there and they start ministering to me and I get something to eat. And they said it's all about love. It's all about love. That's what Jesus is about. That's what they teach in the soup kitchens. And so then I'm homeless and I'm in rags and I keep going to the Salvation Army or whatever church is putting that on. There's lots of churches out there helping people, folks, but not JW.org. You have to wear slacks of a certain style and jackets and, you don't have to wear a tie now. You see, to give your audience a dress code like that is telltale signs of a cult. High control, very high control. When they tell you when and how you should shave, what you should wear, you're just going to worship God. And there's many different circumstances that people are going to find God. They could be down and out, ready to commit suicide, and they crawl into that church in rags, hoping to find something before they end it. Not JW.org. It's not how they work. Okay, well, here it is. He was a murderer from the beginning. That's what Jesus says. Yeah, your father, the devil, your will is to do your father's desire, the devil. The devil doesn't want people to live. See, the devil likes death over life. That's what the devil wants. And what does it say? And does not stand in the truth. Well, JW.org has usurped Jesus' truth. They've usurped it. They've taken it away And they said, no, it's our truth. You see, we're in the truth. Our truth will set you free. Jesus didn't say that. They've usurped it. So JW.org does not stand in the truth. They do not stand. They've made their own truth. And here's what it says. There's no truth in them. There's no truth in them. And when they lie, when they speak lies, they speak out of the devil's character, his own character. For he is a liar and the father of lies. It's very clear, folks. This talk was right on cue for them. Right on cue for them. And when we look at overreached in the Bible, Proverbs, very first one, Proverbs 16 and 18. Pride goes before destruction. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Is that how the disfellowshipping works? Not at all. Not at all. They'll disfellowship children. So that's what overreached is. Pride goes before destruction. You see, JW.org is so proud. When they go to court in Norway, they said, no, you have taken away. You see, all Norway said is, you're abusing children. You're not measuring up. You don't check the box. So you can no longer get our money, the taxpayers' money. That's all this is. And with that, you can't marry. You're going to have to come to our courthouse to get married because we don't consider you a religion. You're overreached. You're proud. You're not willing to make any changes. You're not willing to put the children on Jesus' knee. Jesus says, he says to the children, he says, come and sit in my knee. And he said to the disciples, which is JW.org, look at the children. Look at the children. That's what Jesus taught. You see, JW.org, they said, no, we're going to disfellowship, and you're not taking that away from us. Because we're going to the European Union. We're going to appeal this. And we're going to go to the European Union, and we're going to have bitter winner, Massimo, the guy that's in charge of the vampire cult. He's on JW.org's website. That's who they're using to help them. He looks after Scientology and a lot of these cults all over the earth. That's what he does. He's a cult lover. And he's in charge of he's very proud of the vampire thing. You see, that's all about blood. In the way I've seen it, vampires suck blood out of people. JW.org has a blood doctrine. They want you to sacrifice your children to them. Have your children die because of the doctrine they have in their elders book. You see, Massimo is protecting that stuff. Massimo. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to carry on in the program. He's going to talk about overreached, how a guy, I'm not going to play it all here, but I'll explain it. Some guy got disfellowshipped for fornication. Typical thing, it's always fornication. And by the way, do you need to disfellowship for fornication? Do you need to announce and humiliate the people's name on the platform? Not at all. Not at all. I don't read that they're doing it the right way. You see, in today's world, you have a meeting with the guy. It's all in private. If he committed let's say it's an elder. These are elders, right? So if it's an elder, yeah, you gotta say such and such is no longer an elder. That's all. You don't have to get into anything. They don't get into anything on the platform, but just announce the elder. He committed whatever. He doesn't qualify to be an elder. Now, for the rest of the congregation, you don't have to announce their name at all. They're not serving as elders or servants, you know. And people come and go as pioneers, ministerial servants all the time. It's no one's business. Things happen in the congregation, things happen in life. But we're going to take this example about how Satan is overreaching us, and we're going to take it beyond this fornication thing. We're going to talk about sacrificing your children for the blood thing. We're going to talk about lying in court. We're going to talk about JW.org, the governing body. Let's take what they're doing here and apply it and flip it right back at them. You see, they want to dish it out and get us looking at us and making us feel guilty. But no. We're going to take this and we're going to flip it back at them. So let's listen to this guy for a bit here.
2, we read verse 6. This rebuke given by the majority is sufficient for such a man. Now you should instead kindly forgive and comfort him, so that he may not be overwhelmed by excessive sadness. And who is behind that ploy of excessive sadness? Verse 11. So that we may not be overreached by Satan, for we are not ignorant of his designs. So, the devil will use whatever. The temptation of sexual immorality, being overly permissive, or being harsh, unforgiving.
Okay, we're going to talk about
mercy.
We're going to talk about lacking
Both
mercy
of
and
those.
harshness, because and he's absolutely right in applying the scriptures that way. Is this not what J.W. Org is doing? Kicking people out. People have been disfellowshipped for decades, lifetimes, open wounds, excessively sad. Some people commit suicide. You see, the organization has been doing the devil's crafty acts for 100 and some years since Rutherford came in. So what is he referring to? He's telling them here, verse 11. I'll get that up so you can see it. So that we would not want to be outwitted or overreached, is the word he's using, by Satan, for we are not ignorant of his designs. And he gives the example of this guy that was disfellowshipped and how it's so important that we forgive. And that's what he's saying. You got to forgive, also forgive. So that's what his whole talk was about. Up here, verse 5, now if anyone has cause for pain, he has caused it, not to me, but in some measure, not to put it severely, but to all of you. So you want to talk about causing pain. The JW.org, the governing body, through their rule book, has caused pain to over 1 million people on earth that are being shunned. And those are living people. There's over 1 million people being shunned today on earth because of this organization. And they're trying to reverse it. They're trying to come back and say, yeah, we can't do this. They're trying to do a flip-flop here and say we're going to have to be easier going. I don't think so. I think this is just a narcissist pointing out what everyone else is doing wrong, but they know damn well they're the ones guilty. They're the ones that are overreached by Satan, and they've been doing it for decades, for over 100 years. Instilling no one could wear beards. You have to be little soldiers and count time. They still want that. They still want you. They just had to let go of the time counting because of the governments are looking at them. And the governments are saying that this is forced labor upon children, sending children door to door. Child labor. This is child labor for a religious organization. So that's nothing more, nothing less. Okay, what do we have next here? I think that's about it. Let's carry on and watch this guy for a bit more.
Tactics can be very effective in taking Jehovah's people away from their Heavenly Father. But on this matter of temptations when it comes to sexual immorality, let's just briefly talk about another tactic that the devil uses. He can convince someone that they can taste or toy with things that might be unclean or are unclean, but there will be no lasting harm or no serious consequences to that. They may even touch something unclean and nothing apparently bad has happened, and they conclude that it's okay. But such a person is forgetting the unchangeable law of Jehovah as recorded in Galatians 6:7. Whatever a man is sowing, this he will also reap. Now, just to illustrate that, how the devil can use bait and convince somebody that they're not really into any kind of trouble, and yet he will catch them. We're going to tell you an account that goes back many years. There was a group of young men at a freshwater lake.
A little slow on getting my screen changed over. I wanted to stop there because I like that scripture. Whatever a man is sowing, this he will also reap. Whatever JW Org is sowing, this they will also reap. They're lying in court. They lied in the Canadian court. We showed they lied in the Norway court. You won't see it if you're a Jehovah's Witness, but it's out there. We show it on these channels. These guys are lying in court every day. They're twisting the truth. And right now they're reaping it. Norway, they're reaping it. They're not getting their money. They're not classified as a charity. In Canada, we hope the same happens. That's what we're pushing for. We have a petition in this video. There's over 1,000 signatures in Canada to take to the government and say that this religion has some serious issues. If you haven't signed it yet, please sign it if you're Canadian. If you know someone Canadian, tell them to get a hold of us. I think I'm too close to my lights. Okay. I'll pull my desk back. There we go. I had one of the creators send me some advice. I appreciate that. I'm working in a very small room. I can reach my hand out. And it's a small green room. We're just in the process of selling our house. So we're going to be moving. I built a studio, but that's going to be full of stuff. So we're just in the process of packing things up, and I'm not going to be doing much on the studio. So my lighting will be... sorry about that. And thanks for the advice, MJ. But anyways, let's carry on. This guy here is just... Yeah. You see, he's sending it all to us, to you and me, and he thinks, narcissists want to take the problems off them and put it upon you. That's what a narcissist does, and makes you feel guilty. So if you're running around the congregation and your guys are bickering, well, he has a beard and it's too long, and he has stubble, whatever, or her slacks are too tight. What about tight pants? This is going on. We see it on Reddit. We see it in the comments. There's things going on in the congregation. These guys are doing damage control within. They have a lot of problems, and they're trying to get you out there looking, oh, we don't want to be part of Satan. You see, but they're taking it off them. What's really going on in the world is much, much bigger than beards and tight pants. They're losing charity status over abuse of children. And they're double backing. They're not willing to change. They're going to take it to the European Union, and this is going to get ironed out in the world. The whole world is tired of Jehovah's Witnesses calling at their doors with children, using children as instruments to ring the doorbells and place literature or whatever they're doing with children. But this is wrong. Making children die over their blood doctrine, that's death. Folks, this is murder. This is blood guilt. This is so serious. That one point should make everyone wake up, in my opinion. But let's listen how he swings this back on you guys.
And they were fishing. And they could look down into this lake and they could see these big bass, beautiful fish. And they tried all sorts of lures. They tried worms on hooks, artificial lures. Those big fish would not bite. But then an older gentleman came along and he said, "Give me one of your worms." And he took the worm without the hook and he threw it out in the vicinity where these big bass were. And a bass came and he took the worm. He said, "Throw another one without the hook." Threw it. The bass took it. And now he said, "Put the worm on the hook and cast." The fish was caught. What is the lesson? The devil will give us bait sometimes, and it appears that it's very pleasurable. There's nothing wrong here. It's harmless. But with the devil, there's always the hook that can cause spiritual, emotional, mental, and even physical harm. It can literally cost us our life if we get tricked to thinking that uncleanness will not hurt us.
Okay, so we can take his exact words and his exact illustration and apply it back to the org. And that's what the org does. They send out the bait. And the bait looks good, paradise, no more sickness. If you go to their websites, a lot of times there's a lot of fear, but they say, no, come to us and we're going to look after you. You see, it's bait. They're sending all this bait out because they supposition, it's all based on a fictional fantasy. The 144,000 has been filled up long ago, if you keep track of the numbers, who's taken the emblems. There's more people taking the emblems now than there ever has been before. It's breaking records. And that 144,000 facade is gone. But Jesus, you see, Jesus said, everyone, take the emblems, keep doing this in remembrance of me. Heaven's a big place. His kingdom's in heaven. It's not on the earth. So these guys have been throwing out this bait. We've been biting this bait. I bit it. And I bit it on the Truth Book, the blue Truth Book, way back in the 80s. There wasn't internet. I couldn't figure things out. But it looked good. The bait looked good. And I bit, and there was a hook on it, and it hooked me in on that bait. And I got hooked in. And then I realized once I got in there, holy shit, I got to give up my life for blood. That came later. That came much later. You don't really think about that until you have your own child. Your child's in the hospital, and your child's almost dead. Meningitis or some spinal cord, might have to have a blood transfusion. Right? I was faced with that. And fortunately, my child made it through. But we read a report on my previous video where mothers are watching their children die in hospitals. It's sad. This is the bait. So they throw out the bait with the hook. They hook you in, and they get you into their organization, and now you've got to go out preaching. You've got to do all these things. And the big thing, you've got to give up your life for them, for their blood doctrine. And your kids have to go preaching. They own you. And if you disagree, they chop your head off like you're done. You're kicked out. So let's listen to this guy a little bit more.
Now, besides pleasure and the temptations that go with that, the devil will also use pain and suffering. For example, in the experience of Job, he lost his material possessions. He lost his children. He got very ill. That caused all sorts of physical and emotional pain, not pleasure. And with all that he was going through, then his so-called friends come to comfort him, and they accuse him of all sorts of bad attitudes and actions. And they even put doubts in Job's mind, or try to, that Jehovah couldn't be pleased anyway. Well, that was one of the toughest tests that he faced. This from with his friends and the words that they said. Well, commenting on this, the August 15th, 2002 Watchtower said this about how a great test can come from our fellow worshipers. It says this: Satan still makes use of misguided counsel or thoughtless remarks from friends and fellow believers. Discouragement from within the congregation can undermine our morale more easily than persecution from without. And then this article went on to explain that there was a brother serving as an elder, but he had seen active combat in the army. He had been through terrible things. But when he faced criticism, thoughtless remarks, and was hurt by his fellow workers in the congregation, what did he say about those tests within the congregation? He says, "It's the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life." So what can the devil use? Our own brothers can say or do things sometimes, and the devil will play on that and amplify that and cause one to stop serving Job.
Okay, so we can take that exact example. No, number one, this Job thing gets overplayed, way overplayed in Jehovah's Witness religion. And, well, look at Job. Look at what he went through. I look at that whole Job test. That was a bet in heaven between Jehovah and Satan. Look at it. If you want to really look at it. They had a bet going in heaven. I don't like that example. I think it's a terrible example. So Jehovah bet Satan that I bet you Job will be faithful. And you can take everything from him, everything. His children, kill them all. Kill all his livestock. You just can't kill him. You can give him big boils. Just almost kill him, but don't kill him. That's what happened. And they use that example all the time. Job was faithful, of course, but it was a bet in heaven. I don't think it's a good example. I don't know if Jesus ever used that example. I don't think he did. I don't remember it. But so then they start harping on Job and this bet in heaven and how Job, look at Job. And then even Job's companions, his close, the brothers or whatever, they're using that illustration. These three guys come up and they tell Job, well, you must have done something wrong for God to turn on you. So they were, that's what he's talking about in the congregation. But what I like about what he said here is when you're picked on and when you're accused, false accusations by elders and by JW.org, many of us that have left, we're being accused of false things. We're being accused of a lot of false things. What they are doing to 1 million people outside of that organization is exactly what they're talking about here. Picking on and accusing people, and it's worse than going to the army. It's worse than going to war. The PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. It's a complex version. They put a C in front of it. And that's what we have coming out of the org, because it's a wound that's always opened and it's never healed. I've written letters. I wrote a 7-page letter to the org when I left. And then I wrote many emails, texts to other elders, and I said, let's talk about this. Tell me how you're shunning me, why you're shunning me, and why you're demonizing me, and why you've slandered and discriminated me. Tell me that. And I get a letter of cease and desist. Do you think that doesn't create an open wound and turn a guy like me into this? Absolutely, because I'm going to take this to the top until I get an answer from these guys. They got to give an answer. No one's given me an answer. I want an answer. And I'm not going to pay for frickin' lawyers to take this up to Supreme Court. This is my government's job. This is the government's job. This is a dangerous cult. People are losing their lives regarding this cult every day. And this is how they beat up their people. Let's listen to some more beat up stuff. Because they have problems inside. And they got to beat you guys up. And tell you that you're like Job's companions. You guys are bad. Yeah, you're bad. But it's really them. These are narcissists.
Well, obviously, there's a variety of crafty acts, and we've only covered just a couple of them this morning. But what do we do to protect ourselves? James 4:7 says, therefore, subject yourselves to God, but oppose the devil. And when we do that, we always must remember the model prayer given by Jesus, where he said, deliver us from the wicked one.
Okay, so how you oppose the devil, we've identified that this organization is presenting themselves as an angel of light. They would rather sacrifice their children on an altar, have them die. This is an angel of light. That's what this organization is. So we've already identified that. So what do you have to do? You have to oppose the devil. You have to get out of JW.org. Leave it. It's the devil. Every time you're in there, you're being told false information about the world out there. We've looked at all the scriptures. They have no support in the Bible to have children ringing doorbells. No support in the Bible for the blood doctrine. There's no support in the Bible for the 144, for everything. This is a religion that has changed the Bible. They are crafty, and then they go to court and they twist it. And they're using the head of the Vampire Association, Bitter Winter, to fight their arguments worldwide. In with Scientology and all these other cults. This is a time to leave, folks. It's a time to leave, just like what he's saying.
Now, why is that so important? Well, we bear Jehovah's name, and he is very anxious to protect his name, and he loves us very much. He's our Father, and like any loving father, if he saw one of his...
The muddiest name on earth right now is Jehovah. I wouldn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness. No way. You type that into the internet, it's the muddiest name. They've muddied that name so bad that I was reading an article from Germany. They said that the Jehovah's Witness religion is worse than the Catholic Church when it comes to CSA. I read that. I ran a video on that a while ago. It is. It's something to get out of, folks. This is the worst religion. They've muddied God's name. And that's why when we get out, we don't even use it. Jehovah. I won't use Jehovah. Jehovah's not my God. Yahweh, that's the name a lot of people use, representing God. I just use God. Jesus used Father. Jesus never once said Yahweh or Jehovah. Not once. But yet, JW.org threw it in there 237 times because they thought it should be in there. You see, they built the Book of Mormon. They've bastardized the Bible so much in so many places. Once you get out, you just start looking and it's so clear. Okay, I think we're close to an end here. Let's run this through.
His faithful son's going through a terrible trial by someone that was trying to kill him. That father would respond quickly, wouldn't he? Well, how does Jehovah feel about us? Well, let's open our Bibles to the book of Malachi and just reemphasize how much Jehovah cares for us and why he would respond so quickly to our cries for help to deliver us from the wicked one. In Malachi 3 and verse 17, it says, "And they will be mine, says Jehovah of armies, in the day when I produce a special property. I will show them compassion just as a man shows compassion to his son who serves him." Well, that warm arrangement there, isn't it? And Jehovah cares for us. Other Bible translations, when it talks about special property, use these expressions: my very own, my most prized possession, my jewels. Jehovah loves us. And Jehovah will only allow the devil to go so far in testing us, only according to what Jehovah wills at the moment. For example, remember in the case of Job when...
He's going to get into this again. So these guys they're just in love with Jehovah. You become Jehovah's property. You see how this works, folks? This is not about Jesus. You see, we're not Jehovah's property. The Israelite nation was. You see, the Israelite nation was given to Jehovah. He was the ruler over that nation. That's it. Jesus, we're Christians. At least I thought I was a Christian when I was a Jehovah's Witness, but I wasn't. You see, you got to get out to be a real Christian. Follow Jesus. But this is nothing. We don't follow Jehovah. You see, when you follow Jehovah, that old scripture says, you're mine, you're my property, you were given to me. The nation of Israel was given to Jehovah. You do the study and you can find that out. It's quite easy. That was given to him. You see, we were led to believe that Jehovah rules everything, the whole world. No, he was given the nation of Israel. That's what the Bible says in Deuteronomy. It's another discussion. We ran that many times and there's lots of videos on it. But yeah, that's we're not given. Jehovah doesn't own me. Now, the scary thing is Jehovah equals Watchtower. So Watchtower owns you, and the way they propagate that and the way they hypnotize you is Jehovah equals the Watchtower. Jehovah equals JW.org. If Jehovah owns you, then in your mind, JW.org owns you. And that's the subtlety of this programming. That's the danger with this man's programming. Yeah, it's wicked. Be careful.
When fire came down from heaven and consumed Job's flock of sheep and even some of his servants.
Scare everyone with fire.
The devil caused that fire.
Devil.
Jehovah allowed it. But later in 1 Kings chapter 18, at the fire test at Mount Carmel, when there were two bulls, and the idea was to figure out who is the true God, Jehovah or Baal. And those Baal worshipers went from morning to night crying out to their false god. And not one flicker of flame could be produced. Jehovah would not allow the devil to even burn up one bull, in contrast to what he had done with all those many sheep. Jehovah is in control. And what Jehovah allows today we can be sure whatever he allows the devil to do, to cause us emotional pain, physical pain, to even persecute us, perhaps even kill some of us, by means of his Son Christ Jesus, Jehovah has made a way to break up the works of the devil completely. So whatever happens, when we stay loyal to Jehovah and we are on guard against the crafty acts of the devil, we will not be overreached. No permanent harm can come to Jehovah's people by this deceitful, treacherous enemy.
Okay.
May all of us.
So we've had enough of him. Yeah. Jehovah. So, Watchtower. Long as you love the Watchtower, nothing is going to happen to you. It's nothing to do with Jehovah. This is about Jesus. Jesus is running the show. These guys forget that, and they forget what they're doing. And yeah, there's a lot of pain and harm. That's what they're saying. Yeah, you're going to go to jail as a Jehovah's Witness. You're going to die with the blood transfusion. You see, Jehovah loves death over life. Am I saying that right, or does it look like I have something against Jehovah? Well, when you come out of the Watchtower, you do. I do. I don't like the word Jehovah. I don't use it. I use it for the audience. That's it. I use it because you guys are coming out, and that's what you know. That's what you think. You think Jehovah is God. Yahweh, I'd rather use Yahweh. If you want to use Jehovah, we use Yahweh. Jehovah is a muddied name. It's a Watchtower name. And they've dirtied it. What does Jehovah think? What does Yahweh think of this, if Yahweh is out there? What is the God of the universe, the God of the cosmos, Jesus God? What does he think? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses might think it's the same God. I don't know. Do your research. But you might be surprised. We're going to call this the ending of the program. When we look at it, we look at how JW.org is, in fact, reaping what they have sown. They certainly are. And in Norway, we see it. And in Japan, it's coming. Japan is reviewing them. The Dutch government is reviewing them. All the same reasons: abuse of children, the shunning practices. They're being reviewed all over the world. New Zealand, because they didn't want to apologize. JW.org's now suing because they're always suing, but they're not part of the apology. They say we don't look after children, which is a lie. It's another lie, right? We've deciphered that on these programs. So they go to court, they lie, and they tell the government's lies. So what does the Bible says? You will reap what you sow. And that's what we see. So folks, until next time, keep living your life with love, and you'll have a good life. It works. Don't worry about all those rules. Love covers over everything. And it works. See you next time.